Welcome to another edition of the Noles Podcast. I'm your host, Gregory McCoy. This podcast is by a fan, for fans. I am not a journalist. I am not a reporter. I am not an insider. I do not work for a website. The majority of my content comes from me and my opinion. Other information comes from the internet. Today is February 21st, 2020. I got about 5 different segments here for this episode. I hope you enjoy it. Let's go ahead and get started. First segment is entitled Corey Simon, defensive tackle, not celebrated enough. Corey Simon, number 53, man. One of my favorite players all time. I describe him as a wrecking ball. 6 foot, 320 pounds of just destruction. He was a part of the 1999 national championship team that just had an abundance of talent on it, man. One of my favorite defenses was that 1999 team. Early years, at Florida State, man, he got there in 1996, or it was either 95 or 96. Just one of the most dominating college defensive linemen. Just a dominating player for his size, man. He was kind of like, I don't want to say he was this great, but he was kind of like Aaron Donald, man, just not as athletic. He was literally knocking guys over, offensive linemen. He was a finalist for the Lombardi and the Outland. He had 44 tackles for his career behind the line of scrimmage. A guy that's 6 foot, 320 pounds, man. I just have to pause on that. That's crazy. He got picked in the first round, number 6 overall in the 2000 NFL draft. He went to the NFC Championship game. He went to the Super Bowl against the Patriots. They lost 24-21. He only stayed there. He only stayed with the Eagles for about 4 seasons. Then he went to the Colts for 1 year. And then he went to the Titans for 1 year in 2007. So from 2000 to 2007 was his NFL career with 3 different teams, 246 career tackles, 32 sacks, 9 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries. The NFL is a hard game, especially for a man that is 6 foot, 300 pounds, man. But he had a decent career. 7 years in the NFL is nothing to sneeze at. I think the average career is probably like 1 to 2 years. So, he retired October 25th, 2007 from the NFL. Just one of my favorites, Noles of all time. I just can't say enough things about him. And just like I said in previous episodes when I started this category for my podcast, highlighting, previous Florida State football players, he's just not celebrated enough, man. I think, if this program is going to get back to where it used to be, you can't move forward without recognizing the past and what the past did to set up the future, or how it can set up the future. The past is a blueprint for what you can do now to get to where we all want this program to be. It is. As much as people don't want to get on their podcasts or YouTube channels and internet shows and say that it's a blueprint for success. Bobby Bowden laid the blueprint for success. All you have to do is follow it. Football hasn't changed that much. And he said it. He who gets the best players usually wins. Bobby Bowden said that. So, I'm not saying that every defensive lineman has to be like Corey Simon. Every defensive lineman can't be like Corey Simon, but there's no pain or loss in trying to emulate some of the greats if you can find them. So let me know what you think about this segment. Gonna move on to the next segment, which is entitled Carlos Williams moved from defensive back to running back. Was this right or wrong? I'm probably not qualified to say if it's right or wrong, but in my opinion, I felt like at worst he should have played both positions. We're talking about an extremely fast, extremely athletic player. And I'm thinking back on that 2013 national championship team, and nobody's kind of jumping off the page because Jalen Ramsey was flashing, but he didn't really come into his own until that second year that he was with Florida State. So I guess if Carlos Williams would have played defense, he would have played that rover position that Ramsey played. But again, you had Devontae Freeman and James Wilder Jr. at running back. So I just didn't see the reason for the move for that. I felt like this guy could have helped you more at free safety or strong safety, probably strong safety. The guy was 6'1", 230 pounds. I mean, I said it in yesterday's episode. Okay? James Wilder Jr. should have been a linebacker. This guy, Carlos Williams, 6'1", 230, could have played linebacker. Could you have imagined that linebacking core, man? We had some good linebackers that year. But could you imagine those two guys playing linebacker? But they moved them to running back. And you know what I'm saying? You didn't really need them at running back. Okay, because you were running the ball with Freeman, but we were not an exclusively a running team. You were more like a West Coast offense throwing team with Winston, with those receivers, Shaw, Green, and I forget. Dang, dude, the tall guy, number 1. I just spoke about him the other day, so sometimes names just slip my mind, man. He played for the Carolina Panthers. I'm pretty sure the trolls on this podcast and YouTube channel will get into me for that. Pause. But Carlos Williams, man, he was one of the best athletes to ever come through the program. I don't think they used him correctly. It was a 5th round pick of the Buffalo Bills. He only played 1 season with them, 1 season with Pittsburgh, and now he's with the Toronto Argonauts in the Canadian Football League. Again, I'm calling my San Francisco 49ers. This is a power back. We need a power back that can do things in short yardage and goal line. This guy has tremendous speed. Okay? Kyle Shanahan, go get him. You get this dude for $500,000 a year. That's chump change. He's only 26 years old. He was like one of the top recruits coming out of high school. He ran a 10.7 in the 100. A 10.5, 22.49 in the 200. like I said, he was a beast. He was a beast at Florida State. They just didn't have him in the right position to succeed. So Florida State has had so many 5 stars that they didn't use right. It's ridiculous. So let me know what you think about Carlos Williams. Was it the right or wrong move to move him from DB to running back? I'm gonna move on to the next segment. What do undersized defensive backs need to succeed? All right, you're an undersized guy, right? And we're gonna say an undersized guy is 6 foot or lower. Okay. All right. So first, you gotta have tremendous speed, tremendous agility. You gotta have like a 40-inch vertical, and you gotta be as strong as an ox. I mean, that's your limited height. You see how long Richard Sherman has just lasted off of 6'3", 200 some odd pounds. Okay, not a very athletic guy. Okay, he can run a little bit. All right, but if you put Sherman on any kind of guy with speed, he's gonna get cinnamon toast crunch. But he's had lasting power in this league off of height and weight and scheme. Okay, 6'3", 200 some odd pounds, playing cover 3. He's been in the league. This is gonna be his 10th season. Versus that, if you're 6 foot and under, you're not gonna last long in this league, unless you have to have intangibles that are just off the charts. 4.35. 40-inch vertical, strong as an ox, tremendous agility, and you can just lock down a guy that's 6'3", 6'4", and can out-jump him, and that's rare. Now, the one guy that reminds me of a guy that was undersized, that was a tremendous player, and I hate Ohio State, but I love this guy. I think his name was Antoine Winfield, and he was a beast. I love watching him play. He was so physical, man. The last team I remember him playing for was the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah, Antoine Winfield, 5'9", 180. He was a beast, man. He played for the Buffalo Bills. And I know I don't want to turn this into Antoine Winfield. I'm just saying, for this particular segment, undersized DBs, he's a perfect example for that. 5'9", 180. He was a beast. And I'm pretty sure some other undersized DBs that were out there that were tremendous beasts. But I remember watching this guy, because I'm like the almost the exact same size as him. And I played DB in high school. And just like all the receivers on our team were almost bigger than me. I think it was like 1 or 2 guys that were like my size. And I didn't have the athletic prowess that they had. I was kind of fast. My best 40 time was like a 4.47. So that's kind of a little bit fast. So let me know what you think about this segment. All right. Gonna move on to the next segment. I got into NASCAR a couple years ago. I told some people at my job that Denny Hamlin was going to win. I don't know if I said it on one of these podcast episodes or not, but my guy won. I'm happy. I'm not happy how the race ended. I felt like the guy who was pushing Newman, trying to push him to the win, I don't know if he was a rookie or what, but dude, you can't push from an angle. Like, you have to have your car directly lined up behind his. You almost got Ryan Newman killed, man. Like, that's crazy. But, it was I'm gonna be honest, I don't watch the whole race. I'll probably watch like the last 10 or 15 laps of every race. That's just really when it gets interesting to me. I'm not a hardcore NASCAR fan. Like I said, I really just got into it, and be totally honest, I was very dismissive of the sport for virtually my whole life. But, I just opened up to it about 2 or 3 years ago, and it's a very, interesting sport. So my last segment, that's going to conclude that segment. My next segment is entitled Fire Stick is Winning the TV Wars. My prediction, cable TV is going to be out of business before, you know what I'm saying, before I'll say 2050. Because Fire Stick is winning right now. It's just so much you can do with the Fire Stick. I can watch virtually anything I want. And, you know, people, this is literally why Amazon, the guy who owns Amazon, is like the richest man in the world, probably, just off the Fire Stick. It's just, you can watch anything you want, and it's really nothing they can do about it. So why, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna say what I got, but I mean, it's just crazy. I love it. I wish this was here like when I was a kid. I would have been in heaven, man. So I'm just looking around at my setup for my podcast, and I'm just like, I couldn't even imagine, like, if I went back in time or my past self came to now, I would be lost with all this technology, man. But I'm thankful for it, and you know, I'm definitely thankful for the Fire Stick. And so let me know what you think about that segment. That's going to conclude this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. It's available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify Podcasts. If you're listening to this on YouTube, please scroll down to the description, click on one of the links, rate, review, subscribe.